Well, I mean, yeah, Bears a winner. Bears in the playoff hunt. But that was as good a bad. That was as bad a law. I don't know how to say it, David.
Good morning, Mully. Happy
great.
Monday. Well, welcome to the second half of the season. And it's full of possibility. And that is, I think, the biggest thing after yesterday is that when you wake up 6-3 and you're the Chicago Bears, regardless of how you got there, you are excited about where you could be headed.
Yeah, I get that, but you got to look at the collective record and you got to say, here comes the second half of the season. It's going to get a lot tougher.
Well, there's no doubt about that.
And that's the
there's no
reality.
question about that. That is the reality. But here's also the reality. You're a team that has not won a lot over the past decade or 15 years. And everything is relative. And relative to where the Bears were most recently and relative to what they have achieved so far, the quality of the victory is debatable, and obviously
it's not debatable.
It's a
bad victory, if there is such a thing.
But there are no such things when you are where the Bears were when the season started. First-year head coach, history of really being a losing organization over the last 15 years.
No question.
And needing to start to develop a winning culture and winning habits. And yesterday you saw the results of a team creating winning habits and now creating a winning culture. So I know there was a lot to pick apart. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But to me, 6-3 is all that matters.
It was an excellent game of hot potato, if that's what you were looking for. A bunch of guys dropping passes. Caleb Williams had a heck of a game. And I don't want to say he put the Bears on his shoulders, although I suppose that would be accurate, but he put them on his legs for certain at the end of that game. And he basically went out and won the game. And it was a really admirable performance. Some of the post-game stuff, we'll get into it. The coach talked about how he and the quarterback are on the same page and he's seeing what I'm seeing. It was quite something to hear him in the post game. I would say that they were very fortunate that Jackson Dart left that game.
Well, there's no doubt about that. The Jackson Dart leaving the game midway through, or 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, he came back. And then he left, and there's some debate in New York, and Brian Daboll had to answer some questions about what he saw and when he took him out of the game. That was after the big hit from C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That changed the game, not only because of the takeaway that they turned into a field goal, but because it knocked Jackson Dart out of the game, and he was the better quarterback up to that point. So he is out. Russell Wilson returns for the fourth quarter and looked every bit of how old he is. 30-something Russell Wilson is not the same as the guy that was a rookie in 2012 with the Seahawks. That was a bad version.
The ghost of Russell Wilson.
And the Bears took advantage of that because Caleb Williams did whatever was necessary to take his team down the field.
They were good.
Yeah.
I would say that the Bears defense really had a long afternoon. It was difficult for them. I would say that the wide receivers had a difficult afternoon. There were just far too many drops, especially from your guy Olamide Zaccheaus. He had a rough game. But I think that Caleb played a really good game. I think Montez Sweat had a sack and a half. Is that right?
He was active.
He now has 5.5 sacks, which would be, wow, they're halfway through the season, just over. That's pretty good, if not for the fact that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has 3 sacks in 2 games.
Well, yeah, he's not going to be able to keep up that pace, but it is.
How dare you say that? He'll have 3 against Minnesota.
He could. I mean, if they keep blitzing him at the right time, he's definitely somebody that they are using strategically as a weapon, and they're deploying him at the right spot at the right time. Dennis Allen understands how to dial up pressure from the secondary. There are ways that he has, been effective, and he's played to his strengths.
He had 9 tackles. He led them in tackles. He had the 2 sacks. I believe he caused that
The forced
fumble.
fumble was the big play.
That was it.
Yeah,
that was the
forced-
biggest play of the game.
He's brought them some juice. Ryan Poles does deserve some credit for adding him to the mix. He was in NFL obscurity, off the Ravens practice squad, dismissed twice this season because of reasons unrelated to probably his performance, but his behavior. And he has been somebody that has given the Bears more than they could have hoped for.
And they gave him a game ball.
And that was smart. They gave him and Caleb Williams game balls, and they earned them on both sides of the ball. Caleb doing whatever he needed to do, running the football and showing more speed than I think people thought he had. Got to the corner, did not realize he was going to be able to do that. And defensively, Gardner Johnson had the best game in a day that was long for the secondary. Secondary was way too soft and
no doubt
weren't challenging routes to the degree you'd like them to do. And the Giants receiving corps was not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
No.
Darius Slayton made one of the best catches you're ever going to see, but that was not that was a rather pedestrian receiving corps, and Jackson Dart was putting the ball where he needed to. Good young quarterback the Giants have.
Yeah, he looked really sharp, and he it was a left-handed, one-handed catch. That was a spectacular catch, and you just were kind of hoping, wow, I wish the Bears make a catch like that. How do you make a catch like that in a cold environment where the Bears couldn't catch a pass?
I don't know. I think that
spectacular.
it was pretty unexpected, and it was as Greg Olson pointed out during the broadcast. It was cold, so the ball was going to be slick, and yet Slayton. The ball was put perfectly where it needed to be, on the right side of the body where he could do that. And just instinct took over. And the Bears did have the dropsies. It was like they were wearing mittens because they were cold and they couldn't quite grip the ball. I think anywhere between 4 and 6 drops. If you're a tough grader, it was 6. If you're easy, it was 4. But Caleb Williams, you add conservatively 5 more completions to his day, and you would have had a huge number day. As it was, he was the winning quarterback because he did what his team needed him to do down the stretch.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. He made some big-time plays, without a doubt, and that touchdown at the end was pretty special. And was it Cole Kmet who?
Cole Kmet had a great blocking day.
He also played fullback, and he knocked the guy senseless. He did very well.
He had a couple blocks that I think he can be proud of, and also underscore his value to this team. Not what he probably wanted it to be at this stage of the season, because he probably wanted to be leading the Bears in receptions, but his ability to create mismatches, because when you leave him in the game, he could line up at tight end, but he could also line up at fullback. And he's one of those versatile guys that you could run the ball or you could throw with the play action, and his versatility has given them some options.
Yeah, I mean, look, as you say, they did win the game, and they are 6-3, and that's better than Minnesota, for instance, who they play next week, found a way to lose. So that's a good sign in and of itself. But boy, it's difficult sledding, so to speak, especially if you're driving in today. So make sure.
Be careful driving in today.
If you get up now and you're waiting around, get going.
Get going.
Don't
finish that coffee. Turn on your radio in the car. If it takes a little bit longer, that's okay.
Yeah,
we'll be here for you.
Yeah,
we'll talk you through it because it's going to take some more time. Both sides of town, I think, a little bit slick and snow covered, and depending on where you are, you just know you're going to be in the car for a little bit longer if you're commuting.
I think Dustin has vowed to do traffic on the 8s.
Well, we could,
even if he has to somehow.
Do we have to do it on the 8s?
Turn on BBM.
Don't they already do that already? Don't give people ideas.
He'll just repeat everything they say.
Let's do them on the 9s.
Okay. All right.
Traffic on the 9s?
Yeah, we should just mention that there's going to be a lot of traffic. It's a nasty day, and not all the streets are clear, but the
not yet.
Main thoroughways.
That's
hopefully.
The key thing. Not yet, right? They're out early.
Yes.
Saw trucks are deployed.
Yeah.
And by 10 o'clock, it's going to be clear.
It went through my head. Yeah, well, the weather's
by
going to
the
be
weekend,
clear.
It's going to be 60. That's what I was just told.
By the end of the day, by the end of our show, it will be clear in terms of weather. There's no more weather.
All right.
Coming.
Well, we like to provide clarity here.
It could be a little bit.
We could
wet.
use that as a metaphor.
that the weather will
Things clear up when you listen to Mully and Haugh.
Oh, I like
Weekdays,
that.
5:30 to 10.
There you go.
We clear things up. We clear your path.
I feel like that's more act of God than something we can control.
I think we should promote it.
But you go ahead. You push that narrative. That's a great idea.
Improving your commute and clearing your roads, 5:30 to 10 every day.
Clearing your roads. There you go. That'd be a good one. People would love that. Yeah. Fun. It was a
fun day.
It was great that the Bears got out of it alive. But
you feel bad about some of the things. It wasn't pretty, and I think that they can complain about the quality and all of the things about. Well, you know what? They just beat the Giants, and they have yet to beat a team with a winning record. But the Bears were one of those teams not that long ago, and 9 games in, they are looking at. They've got a 40, whatever numbers you look at, but the one that the NFL is promoting, they have like a 40% chance of making the playoffs.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
Provided they play the Giants week in and week out.
This is factoring in the schedule.
When you're playing a bad team, when you're playing a bad team, that's a bad team. These guys have lost, what was that, their 4th game that they lost while being.
They're terrible.
About being up by 10.
Bengals weren't great either. They put up 42.
But my point is simply that when you play bad teams, one of the tricks is waiting for them to do the bad. Mm-hmm. And they outlasted that team as much as anything, because you could argue that a lot of the result of that game was inflicted by New York to New York. It was just not a great game for them, and when things turned, it turned completely. And you got to wonder, I believe that we heard this on the broadcast, like, why are you kicking a field goal there? If you want to win this game, you go for it and score a touchdown. And Brian Daboll, I don't know if he was looking to win a game or keep his job, but he was satisfied to accept the 3 points, and that probably cost him the game.
Probably so. Yeah. Look, coaches make dumb decisions every game, every day, and teams find ways to lose games they should win. The Bears certainly have been there, and we have been through that. That's history. I think what's happening is that you could choose. You're right. There are a lot of things to pick apart. It was definitely a win and a day full of flaws, and this team is incomplete, and the roster doesn't have this and it doesn't have that. You look around the league, though, this is happening everywhere, and it happens every season. The Bills lost to the Dolphins.
Yes.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
And you are the Bears. You're not in a position yet. You haven't gotten good enough yet. You're not complete enough yet to complain about victories.
Oh, I can complain about it because I didn't think it was a great performance. That's
fine.
All.
You can complain. I'm not going to deprive you of that. I think that's great.
Pretty bad. But I would say this, that, as I said, when you're playing bad teams, you just let them blow up on you, and that happens. Mm-hmm. And it was really fortunate that that things broke down the way they did, that Jackson Dart was playing as well as anybody on the field. And that was a real problem for the Bears right up to the point where he was out of the game, and then things got a lot easier. I also believe that it was kind of amusing. In the pregame, we talked to Howard Cross, who is an old Giants tight end who does a lot of work with the team now, who does some broadcasting, and he said, it was like, I think the question was, are Brian Daboll or Joe Shane in any trouble at this point? And his response was, what me worry? Like, he didn't see it at all. In fact, I would imagine he was pleased with the way things turned out.
Well, I think they're both looking at getting fired.
Forgivable.
They're more likely to be
forgivable.
Losing their jobs within weeks. They aren't getting it done. Unless they pin everything on finding the quarterback, and Jackson Dart giving them that kind of hope. But that doesn't look like a team. Then you got to ask him,
didn't they find the quarterback? And isn't he being that quarterback in I know he had a cup of coffee with the quarterback whisperer, but isn't he doing pretty well? And in Indy, aren't they doing okay?
Daniel Jones?
Yes.
Yeah, change of scenery benefited him, though. He had to get out of New York. New York was not is not for everybody, and it certainly wasn't for Daniel Jones. So
but when you have a quarterback that is now playing that well because he's away from that adds to the reasons.
If you're asking me if I think Joe Shane and Brian Dable are going to be back with the Giants, I would say the odds are against it.
Yes.
They're likely to be moving on
because of games like the one they played yesterday.
They should have won that game, but without Jackson Dart, it was a lot more difficult. They didn't have a backup that threatened anybody. Russell Wilson looked his age, and he looked cold. He looked cold yesterday. He was limited, and his deficiencies were limiting for the Giants. Bears benefited from that, no question about it. They have been beating teams with losing records. The aggregate of the teams that they have beaten is well under 500.
It's more. We have a texter saying it's 15-41.
That may be. Yeah, I mean that's a break you have to take advantage of. The Bears were that team though for so many years. They were the teams that they were the team that was losing to the teams that were, slightly better than them. They were worse. It was bad versus worse. If you want to say bad versus worse, okay. I'd rather be bad than worse.
Yeah. The Bears were. I would agree with you. They were lucky that as poor as they played, the Giants were worse. That's a very fortunate thing to have happen. You need more teams like that on your schedule.
Perhaps, and they do. They have some left, but not a lot. They have the Browns left. You should figure that to be a victory. That's 7. How do you get to 10? If the Bears get to 10, they're in the playoffs. Can you get to 9 and have a winning record? That seems like it's attainable. They have 8 games left. 3 and 5 gets you to 9 and 8. I do believe that that's possible.
Yeah.
You get to 10 victories. That's a harder thing to maybe navigate because of the quality of your opponent. But at the same time, everything's on the table now because you have a quarterback that's been resourceful. You got a team that is resilient, and you've got a coach who knows how to win.
The coach definitely is doing a good job, and that's good to see. And I'm not down on the Bears winning a game. That's fantastic to see. It's just if you sat through that thing, it was an unpleasant thing to witness. I'm just being honest. And you can accuse me of negativity.
For you it was. No, I'm not.
I think for most humans it would be.
Okay.
This was hardly a thing of beauty and a joy forever. This was more of a trudging through, frustrating, and then finally, again, the Giants managed to lose at the end of the game as they seem to do. As I said, Caleb Williams had a really good game, and he should be proud of the game that he had. And it was good to hear some of the things that the coach had to say in the postgame. Although, Big Cat Williams made a point, which I thought was excellent, when he said after the game that he could tell that Caleb was locked in. He was locked in from the minute he showed up, and he was locked in the entire game. Big Cat said, what does that mean? That there are games where he wasn't locked in, where he didn't show up locked in and didn't stay locked in the whole game? And I think that's all on the table. Whenever you're complimenting someone, there is a counterpart to it.
Consistency is hard to achieve for
David,
for anybody.
He's getting better.
Yeah.
I would defy anybody to call up and tell us that he isn't improving. He definitely is. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing it in front of you, and that's what you want to see. So that is a really good element of what happened. But the defense, and his answer, Ben Johnson's answer about the defense was very interesting because he basically told you, well, guys are going to come back. It's going to get better because we have some of our better players out.
Well, they played the majority of the season without four defensive starters.
Yes.
And they were shorthanded again yesterday. And it showed. There were some plays that Noah Sewell didn't make that you would think TJ Edwards would. The secondary, far too soft in coverage, and the holes were too easy to find. Pass rush was a little bit better. But, when you lose, the count goes from Jalen Johnson to Kyler Gordon to TJ Edwards and Dio Adengbo. Those are 4 starters that you had penciled in from the team you thought you were going to have. And they have not been able to overcome that for the most part. So their defense, they're living and dying by the takeaway. And yesterday they lived after getting the takeaway, and they turned that into points, and it turned into a victory. And they're flawed, yes, but the defense has at least have to feel good about they have one thing they lean on. They've got to turn the ball over, and if they do that, they can win games.